Wood graining is the practice of applying wood grain to a non-wood surface, and thus increasing the beauty and appeal of that surface. And wouldn't you agree that designs from our natural world have quite an appealing quality to us? We really do appreciate the beauty of the world around us. And as a type of faux finishing, wood graining has been around for thousands of years, since the time of the ancient Egyptians. Now, during this time, the Pharaoh had artists who acquired and honed their skills of faux finishing, including wood graining. And it has continued, wood graining has, to be popular throughout the ages. It experienced a major resurgence in popularity during the neoclassical revival period of the 19th century. Now, during this time in the 19th century, artists would apprentice for 10 years or more with a master wood grainer before they would begin working on their own. And great recognition was awarded to artists who could actually trick viewers into thinking that their work was the real thing. Wood graining gained even more appeal during the Art Deco period of the 1920s and 1930s. And as you can see in these posters advertising the 1933 and then the 1934 Chicago World's Fair, it shows the style of the Art Deco. Now, the centerpiece of the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, in the giant dome of the Travel and Transportation Building at the Century of Progress, was a Dietrich-designed Packard formal sedan. Now, Packard said this about the automobile, that it was the highest expression of the industry that has civilized the world. Quite a statement, eh? Well, we'll come back to that. But for now, let's back up a bit. Let's back up to the early 1900s to trace the beginning of the wood graining process that was used in the American automotive industry. At the turn of the century, the city of Coshocton was the leading producer of specialty advertising art. In the early 1900s, Coshocton was second only to New York City in the size of its artist community. In 1909, the American Artworks Company was formed. There, specialty trays were manufactured for breweries and others, and a lithograph wood graining process was used to wood grain these trays. In the lithograph process, the metal sheets that were made to form the trays actually made direct contact with the etched printing plates. Then after these metal sheets were printed, they were then formed into trays. Here you can see a picture of a metal sheet that was never formed into a tray. In 1916, an Austrian by the name of Guido von Webern moved to Dayton, Ohio, and with him he brought his knowledge of the contoured printing wood graining process that was being used in Europe at that time. He became associated with the National Cash Register Company. In 1918, the National Cash Register Company began producing the so-called modern look cash registers. These cash registers featured cabinets made out of stamped metal. They were finished in a wood grain process using the new contoured printing method. Over 1 million were produced. In 1885, Thomas Edison bought property in Fort Myers, Florida. In the early 1900s, he used the contoured printing wood graining process on his phonographs. In 1916, when the 7-bedroom home next door came on the market, a close personal friend of Edison's, Henry Ford, bought the property. A wooden fence separated the two estates, but the gates always stood open and became known as the Friendship Gate. When Edison's doctors ordered him into a wheelchair in the last years of his life, Henry Ford was still brisk and active. He bought a wheelchair as well so they could race around the grounds together. Edison said of Ford, "I can only say that in the fullest meaning of the term, he is my friend." Thomas Edison even contributed to the technology of the automobile. Henry Ford began using the same contoured printing process of wood graining starting in 1930 on the Model A. And he became one of more than 65 American automobile companies that used this wood graining process. Meanwhile, in 1931, the National Cash Register Company sold its wood graining technology and patents to the Oxford Ink and Varnish Corporation of Detroit, Michigan. At this time, Guido von Webern left National Cash Register to head up the new wood graining division at Oxford. It became Oxford's practice to manufacture the wood graining plates, rollers, and equipment, and then lease them to the American automakers. Oxford received a royalty based on the amount of finished product that was produced by them. Oxford also manufactured the materials used in the graining process, consisting of a primer or bottom coat of paint, a graining ink or paste, and a top or finishing coat. The automakers agreed to pay Oxford a royalty of 1 cent for each square foot of surface finished by the use of the patented processes, equipment, and materials. When we here at Grainit Technologies refer to the factory original process, it is this original Oxford wood graining process that we speak of. We are fortunate to have preserved over 100 pieces of original Oxford wood grain artwork. This artwork covers nearly every car produced from the 1920s to the 1950s, and it is from this artwork that we produce our wood graining plates. Now, let's get back to the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. While people waited 2 hours in line just to get a glimpse of the car of the dome, at the Ford Pavilion, others were equally amazed by the Ford Motor Company's display of metal finishing. There, a hands-on demonstration of the Oxford wood graining process was given. People watched with amazement as factory wood grainers applied the wood grain to the 1933 Ford dashboard. High above the workers were large angled mirrors so that everyone could get a bird's eye view of the process. It was here that Ford produced the large souvenir trays, right before the eyes of fascinated onlookers. These metal trays measured 12 by 17 inches, and they were wood grained in a walnut burl pattern. Then a picture of the Ford Pavilion was printed in the center of the tray with the caption, "A Century of Progress." On the back of this tray is seen the Oxford patent stamp. This very same stamp can be found on the back of many wood grain dashes and moldings that were produced from the 1930s and 40s. Now, let's focus in on a very interesting facet of American automotive wood graining, the development of the Dynoc process. The Turnstead Manufacturing Company made automobile body hardware and metal stampings. This company was acquired by General Motors as part of its purchase of Fisher Body in 1926. In 1933, Turnstedt became a division of General Motors. In 1936, they began to produce photogravure plates based on the Oxford Varnish Corporation's designs and patents. A patent infringement lawsuit was filed by the Oxford Company soon thereafter. So, as they went back to their drawing board, so to speak, this led to the development of the Dynoc process by General Motors. But what really was the original Dynoc process? There are more than a few misconceptions about Dynoc. Let's set the record straight. Let's read directly from the 1939 through 1940 Fisher Body Service Manual. Dynoc production transfer. This transfer is used in body production and is applied on sheets of metal after the ground color is applied to the sheet. It is simply a designed graining that is transferred from its paper foundation onto the fresh, tacky, colored lacquer that has been previously prepared. The sheet metal, after the transfer has been applied, is then stamped or pressed between dies to form an instrument panel, glove box door, garnish molding, or any other form panel. This type of transfer is not to be used for service repair. Remember, it mentioned that the Dynoc production transfer was applied before the metal was stamped out. Here is a photo of the stamping operation for the 1948 Hudson instrument panel, courtesy of the Hudson Essex Terraplane Club Library. Notice the metal used in the instrument panel was wood grained before the stamping operation. This was possible because when the nitrocellulose film was applied to the fresh, tacky lacquer, it actually became part of the finish. If you look at the bottom, underside of a dash that was wood grained with this process, you can see the straight line of the transfer edge, but that edge will not lift. Try as you might, it cannot be separated from the rest of the paint. Now today, the film that is available, that is called Dynoc, is very different from what was used in factory production. It is really more of a vinyl decal film. Of course, you can't have your dashboard re-stamped with the Dynoc process, but you can have it restored using the contoured printing process. And you'll be able to do it exactly like the original look because those films were actually made from the plates. They used their plates to print these films. So you can match the pattern exactly. Now, here's an example of another way that we can match the pattern. This 1940 Buick. We had a plate for the 40 Buick and it was very close but not identical. Well, then we received this dashboard in our shop and it had a lot of good original wood grain left. So we were able to photograph and scan the dashboard and then create artwork, and with that artwork we made a plate special for this 40 Buick. And now, as you can see from the photographs, this 40 Buick is restored identical to the original. Well, we hope this presentation of the history of the American automotive wood graining process has been very educational to you, and we hope that if there's been any misconceptions, well, we've helped to clear them up.